Welcome to the Qualtrics WinCaddy Call Center Manager webinar. Let's get started. Call Center Manager and Qualtrics allow users to combine all call center functions into one system while using Qualtrics as the survey authoring system. Users will be able to conduct phone-only studies, web-only studies, or a combination of phone and web known as mixed mode. Call Center Manager gives Qualtrics users many functions. Here's just a few highlights. A sample database allowing one to import sample records to be dialed or to be accessed from the web. A sample management program that runs through hundreds of rules to make sure the appropriate interviewer gets the correct call record at the right time. These include no answer callback rules, busy callback rules, regular callback rules, time zone rules, etc. The ability to create and control simple to complex quota cells. For example, a user desiring 100 completes for females and 100 completes for males, or complex categories using a combination of variables. Every call will be recorded with a disposition code. A disposition code is simply the result of that call. Was the call a no answer, a busy, an answer machine, a disconnected number, a refusal, a completion, etc. Therefore, the user will have a complete record of what happens to every record that is called or accessed on the web. Users will have the choice to use good old manual dialing or use one of our automated dialing methods. We have auto dial systems that can automatically dial a phone number and even dialing systems that can do much more than just dial. The interviewer component of the Call Center Manager has a built-in SIP VoIP control. That means if you have a SIP VoIP phone system, the interviewer application will register directly with your SIP server for phone dialing. This reduces cost. Interviewer only requires a regular headphone to dial in all modes. A call center does primarily outbound calling, which simply means the system dials a sample record calling the respondent. Our system can do inbound calling as well. For example, an interviewer leaves a voicemail for the respondent who calls back, and the interviewer retrieves the respondent's call record. The interview proceeds from there. Supervisors can monitor interviewer screens and rate interviewers and produce rating reports of interviewer performance. There are many reporting functions in WinCaddy Call Center Manager. The most used report is the Interviewer Productivity Report, which compares the interviewers on several criteria, including dialings per hour, completes per hour, and average completed interview length. The application components involved are the WinCaddy Supervisor, Qualtrics, and WinCaddy Interviewer. The Supervisor application provides the interface for configuring study specifications and specifying the link to and from the Qualtrics survey system, monitor survey progress by generating a series of reports, monitor interviewer screens, and rate interviewers on various criteria such as probing correctly, entering data correctly, and other criteria that is important to measure by the user. Qualtrics is where the survey is authored. Quotas can be set up and synced with the WinCaddy quotas for proper tracking. Interview data is stored, and where exporting of the response data takes place. The interviewer application gets the sample from the file server. Interviewer can preview call record history, auto-dial phone numbers if desired, conduct the interviews, schedule callbacks, and records the outcome of the call, otherwise known as the call disposition. The computer components involved include the supervisor station, which runs the supervisor application. Interviewer stations run the interviewer application and does the telephone dialing. The file database server, which hosts call center database files, sample manager, and mixed mode and the mixed mode web runtime engine. The system supports remote interviewers using virtual private network and Microsoft terminal services. The technical specs involved include Windows-based, ODBC compliant database, local area network, and virtual private network. In addition to creating the questionnaire in Qualtrics, there are a series of small steps needed in Qualtrics to get the project ready for WinCADDY Call Center Manager. Qualtrics users of Call Center Manager will use the link option on the New Study screen. This brings up what is called the navigation screen. This screen is divided into 4 windows. The study window allows for a description of the study and various password protections. The setup window allows for the specifications of the project, the importing of sample, and for email setup if this is a mixed mode study. The interviewer window allows for creating a list of interviewers, attaching various special interviewer properties such as Spanish-speaking interviewer, refusal conversion specialist, etc. Assigning interviewers into the projects and rating interviewers as part of the monitoring process. And lastly, the reports and data analysis window allows for the generation of many reports, including the interviewer productivity report, a disposition report, the reviewing of the email log, and linking back to Qualtrics in order to export data. The Qualtrics user will click on the configuration button, and this simple configuration screen will appear to enable the user to enter information necessary for the Call Center Manager application. This will communicate with the Qualtrics system for running the questionnaire and for updating the call center attempt database. The first 4 address fields require Qualtrics study URL and the Call Center Manager server's URL for a two-way communication between the 2 systems. At the Qualtrics end, an end of survey element is customized to link back to the Call Center Manager for interview attempt updates. This update process is completely transparent to the interviewer. Links to and from Qualtrics are SSL encrypted, and session-specific passcode is used to authenticate database updates. The middle part of the screen allows the user to type in wording that an interviewer will read if this is a survey that was restarted after previous mid-terminate. This text can be customized to personalize it. For example, a respondent name taken from the WinCADDY sample days can be embedded in this restart introduction text. The bottom part of the screen allows the user to click on variables that can be passed out of the Call Center Manager sample database and can be used as part of the Qualtrics survey. For example, by clicking on name, the name in the sample record can be used in the Qualtrics survey to make sure the interviewer is speaking to the correct respondent. The user will notice that the system dynamically builds URL that will link to Qualtrics as you select variables that will be passed and click on the Save button. Under the Setup window, it's time to create the specifications for the project. Under Sample Settings, the user makes several decisions such as how many attempts a record should be made before it's no longer productive to keep attempting. How many minutes should go by before dialing back a normal busy phone call? How many times should a respondent be allowed to refuse? And so many other important things. The bottom half of the screen are the study dates, days, and hour input fields. This information will show on the callback screen, so the interviewer will know the appropriate times to make a callback. The time zone screens make sure that if a project is calling across different time zones, that respondents are called within an appropriate time frame. The no answer screen allows for a no answer to be called back at a later time. This is usually at different times during the day and or night. This will ensure that a project gives a respondent a fair chance of being part of the study before that record is deemed no longer viable to be called. Quota cells can be simple or complex. This allows a user to control how many completions they want for defined variables and or questions such as 200 total completions, 100 for males, 100 for females. Every call will be recorded by either the interviewer or by the survey itself, a result of that call. Was that call a no answer, an answer machine, a busy, a language barrier, refusal, callback? This is called a disposition. This will allow the user to have a complete disposition report showing the result of every call for that project. The priority screen allows a user to send out sample with a higher priority to be called ahead of other sample. This is only for projects that have this special need. The assignment screen allows a user to attach specific types of sample to specific interviewers, such as attaching Spanish-speaking household respondents to Spanish-speaking interviewers, or C-level executives to C-level executive interviewers. Now it's time to import the records the user is going to call. Call Center Manager Sample Database provides a standard interface for storing respondents' records information. Every sample record provides system fields for storing such information. In addition to these system fields, a user can define up to 500 additional fields for storing respondent information. As part of creating a WinCADDY sample database for a Qualtrics survey, individual survey distribution links are generated in Qualtrics without sending email invitations. In the Qualtrics API, unique survey links are generated based on records that are available in the Qualtrics panel. All available respondent information should already exist in the Qualtrics panel. WinCADDY requires at least an area code and telephone number for each sample record. The Qualtrics generated individual survey distribution links with other sample record information are downloaded Qualtrics in a CSV format. The CSV sample records are swiftly imported into the WinCADDY sample database. The unique links are placed in any of the user-defined fields, and the user needs to do, all the user needs to do is specify the name of this UDF in the first field of the Configure Link window. This system builds upon these unique URLs in linking to Qualtrics at the beginning of each interview. The sample works on a system of statuses and priorities. Most of these are automatically updated during the interviewing process by interviewers selecting the disposition code for the outcome of a call or by disposition codes that can be embedded in the survey. For example, if an interviewer sets 2 callbacks for the same time, and one callback was chosen to be a definite callback time, and the other one was chosen to be indefinite, the definite callback will have priority to be called over the indefinite callback. Now it's time to assign the interviewers into the study. Interviewers can only have access to studies that are assigned to them. At any point during the project setup, the user can click on the Setup Status on the bottom of the navigator screen to see how far along they are in the study setup process. At this point, the project is now ready for interviewers to log on. Interviewers can log on in practice mode or live data collection mode. There are several dialing methods to choose from, including auto dial, rapid dial, proactive, and predictive dialing. The supervisor can restrict all interviewers to manual dialing if any specific dialing policy requires that. This is the main interviewer screen. The top half shows some call record information, including telephone number and respondent name if applicable. The middle bar alerts the interviewer if a callback is coming due soon. The bottom half has a series of buttons, including the choice to dial manually or automatically. examine the call attempt history, retrieve a record, transfer a call record to another interviewer, such as a Spanish-speaking interviewer. Below that are a series of hotkeys if the interviewer is in what is called rapid dial mode. If an interviewer starts the interview and chooses a callback disposition code, the callback screen will appear. The interviewer can choose a definite callback for a hard-to-reach respondent and type in a message about that call to remind themselves or another interviewer later on what happened with that call when calling back the respondent. Before the interviewer goes on to the next record, they get a continue log-off screen. The top half of the screen just gives a little information about the call that was just attempted, the ability to type in a message, and the choice to either continue, log off, or log on to another study. As the interviewer process continues, back on the supervisor station, the supervisors can monitor the interviewer screens and rate them on various interviewing procedures and observe their log-on status. At this point, now that data is being collected, the supervisors can run a series of reports to understand how the project is performing. The sample report is a series of specific reports giving the supervisor important information about how much sample is available or not available for a given time and for various situations. The quota report alerts supervisors to the number of completions. The disposition report informs the supervisors of how many calls are resulting for each possible outcome, such as number of disconnected numbers, number of no answers, number of refusals. The callback report shows the distribution of callbacks throughout the calling period, allowing the supervisors to determine the number of interviewers needed for various projects. The interviewer productivity report, as demonstrated on the next slide, gives the supervisors numerous types of information. This includes log-on and log-off hours, number of dials per hour, completes per hour, average completed interview length, and more. The interviewer rating report averages the scores of ratings supervisors give interviewers on various interviewer performance criteria. And the refusal report informs about the number of refusals and conversions to completion rate. This again is an example of the interviewer productivity report. If for some reason the user needs different report information, the sample database can be exported by all or specific fields into another database such as Excel, where further analysis can take place. The call center manager also uses an ODBC compliant database at the back end. This means that other ODBC compliant databases can link to the study databases for custom reporting. At this point, the user can access the Qualtrics system where the questionnaire data can be examined. Once the initial project has been set up, it's easy to create additional projects by copying over the specs from an old project to the new project. In many cases, the new project will have nearly the same or similar specs. Once the specs are copied over, the new project specs can be easily modified as necessary. This slide just demonstrates a Qualtrics survey introduction screen being used in the interviewer application. Sometimes the supervisors will need to locate sample records and make modifications. For example, if an interviewer made a disposition code error or set the wrong callback date or time, call center manager has several ways to examine records. One method is the find feature demonstrated on this slide. If the supervisor needs more searching power to locate records, there is a search function. This is more powerful than the find function because the supervisor can locate records based on more fields than multiple fields. They can use a logical operator other than equals to, and they can copy, move, delete, and replace matching records. Any defined search specification can be saved for future use. There is search and replace capability in the sample database. Also, search and copying sample records is available. If modifying the Qualtrics survey in the middle of the project, please contact Qualtrics technical support to understand what changes are allowed or not allowed. This function will allow the user to connect to Qualtrics in order to export the questionnaire data. If a user would like to do a mixed mode study which consists of telephone and web sample, there are just a few small steps beyond that of a normal telephone project a user needs to perform. First, the callback web terms allows an interviewer to call a web respondent if the web respondent has not clicked on the link to the survey in a specified number of days. Second, the user simply defines some disposition codes to correspond with the web sample. Third, the web sample must be changed to correspond with web attempts. And fourth, email messages are composed for the web sample respondents. When composing email messages, WinCADDY Call Center Manager's sample information can be piped into the body of the email messages. There are up to 6 emails that can be composed for a mixed mode study. Most projects involve about 4 messages. The first message is usually an invitation to take the online survey. The second and third messages are reminders to take the online survey, and the fourth a thank you email for completing the study. However, messages can be composed for other reasons as well. Messages can be sent out either automatically or sent out manually. Once the project is completed, the user may archive the project for future use if needed. The system has a built-in schedule backup function which allows for backing up the projects at a desired time. Other features include a proactive dialing feature for dialing of phone numbers that automatically detects and records dispositions for no answers, answer machines, busies, as well as fax machines, modems, or not in service numbers. The proactive dialing feature also lets interviewers leave a pre-recorded or live voice message if an answer machine or voicemail pickup and turns control over to the interviewer when a live person answers. A never call list is provided. If a respondent specifies they wish not to be contacted, interviewer can simply assign an attempt disposition with a never call property, or the supervisor can manually input their phone numbers into the never call list. Every project from that moment on will not dial that phone number unless the supervisor wishes a particular project to bypass this list. Supervisors can view who was logged on, view interviewer workstations, set up rating criteria on an important interviewer functions, rate interviewers on the criteria, review and edit ratings, and produce a rating report. Voice recording is possible with Call Center Manager. This can be done in WAV and MP3 formats. Interviewers can start and stop recording at any point. Sound file names are derivatives of unique respondent number and begin question name. Recorded sound can be stored in any location. Call Center Manager has readily available help screens. The supervisor just needs to press F1 for the screen they are on, and the help screen will appear for that area. Support for Call Center Manager is readily available as well. Please note on this slide how to contact Sawtooth Technologies and telephone support hours. We hope you enjoyed this brief overview of Call Center Manager. If you have any further questions, please contact Sawtooth at 847-239-7300. That's 847-239-7300. Thank you.